Welcome back to Are You High Right Now? DJ, are you high right now?
I am.
What did you smoke today?
I smoked our new disposable vape pen. It was just actually the same strain as last week, Compound Z, just in a different form. It's in the form of a vape pen.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Anything else you want to talk about with that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, it's Sunday today. This is our 5th episode. How was your week?
It was good. It was long, but it was good. How was yours?
It was good. I'm trying to think of what even, if anything significant even happened. I think I had a couple days where I was close to a mental breakdown a little bit.
That's good.
Just with being home with a baby by myself when it's super cold and
Can't
just
go anywhere.
feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated and trying to go to the gym, but then stuff would come up or the baby wouldn't be happy enough or whatever. But then I finally got to go to the gym and I felt a lot better. Then I hung out with a friend one day and that helped me a lot too. So just kind of getting out of the house. But anyways, yeah, nothing really exciting. It's just January in the Midwest.
Same old.
Yeah. So last week we did Am I the Asshole stories. Those were kind of fun. We like doing that a lot. And today we are doing your worst jobs. So we got some good listener stories and a couple Reddit stories. And I'm kind of excited by this because I put out there, just tell us your worst jobs. And I didn't know what that was going to, what was going to come of that. If there were going to be stories or if we were just going to have one word answers of McDonald's or I just didn't know what that was going to be or a specific story or whatever. I want your opinion on some of these because in some of them, they're local and they are full on calling out the exact business. Do you think I should keep some of that? Should I not say that or should I just full on say who it is?
I don't know.
It's not.
Yeah. It's just a review. Yes. No. Let's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But actually,
it's just a review,
I forgot something before we talk about our listener worst jobs. I was going to ask you, do you want to talk about your worst job or what was your worst job?
I've had a few.
Okay. You want to elaborate a little bit or not really? You don't have to be that specific.
One of my first jobs in Oregon was at a seed packing plant, and I was one of 4 people that spoke English.
Okay.
And it was just...
Was it just the exact same thing all day long?
I filled bags of seed all day and stacked a pallet and moved the pallet. Filled bag, stacked pallet, moved a pallet.
How long did you work there?
2 days.
Okay. I don't even know if that counts as a job. Any other bad jobs?
I wouldn't say necessarily bad jobs, but I was a busboy at Denny's.
Yeah.
Or dishwasher for
and
Denny's.
That had some gross moments.
Oh, yeah. I think that definitely helped me understand how to earn $1, I think. Because in Oregon, when we first moved out to Oregon, it was not easy to make a living.
And you realize that there's a lot of those jobs, I think especially fast food kind of jobs where you might not make a lot, but it's not glamorous work at all. So it takes a long time to actually get anything at that. And in a lot of ways, you're probably working a lot harder than someone who's really high up in a company in some ways, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I won't call out my worst jobs, but there is a reason that I like to work for myself. And I think I like to make my own rules and stuff, but I think I have a hard time with authority sometimes when it comes to if I don't feel respected a little bit. And so I felt that with some different jobs, but I don't really have any that were terrible. I used to work at the water slides right out of college, and there were parts of that job.
I love that place. It was so dangerous, but I love that place.
Yeah, I did too. And there were parts of it that I really loved. You start at the beginning of the summer and it's beautiful out and you're just hanging out on these slides. And I remember the beginning of the summer being this is literally the best job ever. And then you get to the really busy part where it's so many tourists and it's so hot and it's just, I don't know. It got to a point where I was this job is not fun anymore. I was so tan that it wasn't healthy. There was the log ride. Do you remember that one where the lifeguard had to be in the pool and help push the tube down? And I would have high school boys think it would be fun to like yank me down the slide. So they would just pull me down. And that, I just did not like that. I just did not feel like respected at all in that. But other than that, I mean, I've had good jobs, and then I've had jobs where I'm like, yeah, this is definitely like just a season of my life, or, I'll do this for a summer job or a college job or whatever. But obviously that's not going to be my long-term thing, but nothing as crazy as some of these stories.
Oh, let's hear them.
So the very first one, South Dakota wildland fire.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
The association was horrible. The job was the best. The people that were in charge are horrible. DJ might agree because you used to work there. I don't know what it's like now, but 8 years ago, it was 6 or 7 new guys that basically ran the crews as seasonals. PT was basically non-existent until the 2017 new guys.
Yeah, I just kind of got like that uneasy feeling. That whole organization just treated their crew like numbers, and when it came down to it, the whole thing was just a mess.
Yeah. And you had parts of that job that you really liked. Like you worked with
The people.
all of your roommates at the time, and you loved working with them and like being on fires.
I
Like
think
there's parts you really
The
loved.
best part of that job was all the relationships I was able to make with my crew members. Just being in a lot of situations with people, and you become really, really close with those people.
Especially when you're on fires where you're not sleeping very much. You're all basically like camping and sleeping on the ground. And then like you're very close with people because you're all kind of living in like
Very, very.
in a bad situation, not a bad situation, but like a really shitty camping trip for 2 weeks at a time.
There was times where we'd hop in a helicopter, we'd get dropped off, and we had to be self-sufficient for, I think it was 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah.
We had to eat MREs for 2 days straight.
I remember not loving when you had that job just because we couldn't plan anything. Like we'd have like a family barbecue or something, and you'd get like called to a fire and you just have to be gone within like an hour.
Yep.
But also I would get like so worried when you were on fires because you couldn't really, a lot of times you couldn't have your phone or anything. So like I remember there was a big fire. It was the Legion Lake one. And I remember not hearing from you for like 3 days, I want to say.
Yeah.
And being like, I don't know like, I hope they're okay.
That the Legion Lake fire was, so kind of like how hot shot crews work, which we were in a hot shot crew. We were a type 2 IA crew, so it's a initial attack. All the hot shot crews are timed out for the season, so they hit their 1,000 hours of overtime, I think that's how it goes. So a lot of the shot crews were unavailable for the fire that we had. We had a very dry winter, very dry, just summer, spring, all together. It's just a dry year. And I think it was very, very windy. Power line went down, and it just took off. And there was no one else to really help us. So it was just our 2 type IA crews, which was the Black Hats and Bear Mountain, and all the engines that we could find locally. And it was just like a local hodgepodge of.
Yeah. I remember at the time there was like a coffee shop that reached out and was like, we want to take fresh coffee to the crews, like help us get that. And then they actually didn't allow them to do that. I remember they wouldn't let them. But I mean, there were people like locally like wanted to help because it was a big fire.
It was rough.
And I remember not even just that one, but other ones, like maybe I wouldn't be worried or whatever. And then I would see videos that you would have afterwards of being so close to the fire or like trees falling down right by you. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're not in that job anymore.
I really appreciate that job. I've never been so broken mentally and physically before.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of good parts of that job. I think it could be a very, very great program if the leadership has changed. I don't know how it is now, obviously. I hope it's changed because the men and women that actually do that deserve a lot more than what they're
making.
Yes,
Yeah. And then
yes.
even just being like really physically in shape too. I mean, you guys were running any day you weren't on a fire. You were just running
3 miles every single day. And that was just like our morning PT. Sometimes we'd add more. We had this hill. People that are from Rapid City, it's called Wilderness Park. So if you know where Wilderness Park is, then you know the giant ass hill behind Wilderness Park. Well, that was part of our PT. We'd run the outdoor campus 3 times. I think outdoor campus loop is about 0.9 miles. So you'd run that 3 times, and then you'd go over to Wilderness Hill, and you'd have to go up and down 3 times, which at that point I was in really, really good shape, and that was a bitch for me.
Yeah.
I pretended like it wasn't, but it was a bitch.
And didn't you have to do it with all your gear on too?
Depends.
Okay.
It all depended. So it just depended on what we were doing for PT. Sometimes we do PT with our gear on. Sometimes we just did PT with shorts, running shoes, long run.
Yeah.
So
Okay, should we go to the next one?
Yeah.
We kind of talked a little
Sorry.
bit long,
Yep.
but yeah, so good and bad parts of that job,
Yes.
for sure. This one says, I worked as a CNA, not the worst, but definitely not glamorous. There was this patient I had that had this morning routine that I was unaware of, where when you turned her to change her pad underneath her in the morning, she would cough to make herself fart. Well, I didn't know that, so when she turned, she actually farted all over me. The shift had just started, and they wouldn't let me leave, so the facility just gave me new scrubs, and I got a brief shower in before I had to continue working.
So she sharded on you? Mm-hmm. Ouch.
Yeah.
I mean,
Anything I've heard about, obviously, nurses, like anybody in the medical field, you're dealing with stuff that I can't even imagine. But I've had friends that were CNAs too. And I think that is like, unfortunately, you're getting bottom of the barrel right there. Right?
I mean, that's where you start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that job is not for the weak. I don't think I could do that.
I think if you're interested in being a nurse and you haven't quite gone to school yet, becoming a CNA is at least a way to dip your toes into it without going full-fledged. And it also helps you prepare for possibly nursing school.
Well, and that's what I like about like CNAs and nurses specifically is like most nurses, I would say probably 99% of nurses go to do that because they genuinely care about people so much.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to make as much as a doctor and they're going to deal with some really hard stuff, maybe have bad hours, whatever, but they really care so much. And I respect those people that can do that. I personally could not deal with like the bodily fluids and stuff with that. But I mean, yeah, getting sharded on, oof, that's rough.
I've dealt with, because I was the medic on the fire crew, and so I've dealt with some like festering wounds or like nasty boot blisters and stuff like that. But I guess I've never had anybody shard on me before.
Yeah, poop would be hard. Yeah. I had a good friend, I don't think it was who wrote this in, but she worked as a CNA at a nursing home. And yeah, you know, I do not think I could work at a nursing home.
I think I would be.
I think it'd be really sad sometimes.
I agree.
And yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if I could do it.
But it could be I don't know, imagine not having grandparents or, you know what I mean? And being able to, because some of those people don't ever have family that come and visit them.
Right.
And
But that would be so sad to see that. But yeah, if you can kind of be that person.
yeah. I don't know if they are you supposed to make that connection? I don't know.
I think it was like freshman year of high school. I'm pretty sure there was a class where we had to volunteer for however many hours. And that friend actually who was a CNA before then, we volunteered at this nursing home and I think we just went like once a week for a couple hours and we would like paint their nails and we would like go in and talk to people. And it actually got fun to the point where like you knew different patients and that was fun. I do remember like, this is so bad, but like the smell of a nursing home, the smell of like old people and sickness I know you get used to it, but just do not know if I could do a job like that.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know if I know I've been to a couple nursing homes, but I think I just kind of block them out.
Yeah. Okay, next one. The worst job I have had was working in a daycare. It had its good times, but they expected way too much of me. I didn't have much experience working with kids, but they thought they should throw me in and work with 15 kids at once with no help. The manager also sucked. I quit after 3 weeks.
Understandable. That's just botched leadership. You can't, especially you have no childcare history and they just throw you in with 15 kids. I would have lost my goddamn mind.
I have a few thoughts on this. First off, I mean, very unfair to do that to you. Also, did these kids' parents know that who was taking care of their kids wasn't experienced enough to be thrown into it like that? Like, that's not fair to either part. I have a few things to say about this, though, because I have worked in several daycares. I did like a summer day camp, and I actually did that for 4 years. So I really enjoyed it. It was like only for the summer. So by the end of the summer, I would be like, I'm so done with this. But then I'd be excited the next year. And they were old enough. They were like, I think 6 was like the youngest. So you weren't changing diapers. You weren't like doing that kind of stuff. And I really like grew to like love the kids in my group. So there were really good parts and like kind of hard parts. But one time I subbed at a daycare in town, and I won't say which one it was, but I don't know why. I think I had like applied for the job, and this was like, it had to have been in high school, I think. And I don't know if I'd had any job experience before that, to be honest. But I had applied for a job and I didn't get it, but they had my stuff on file. So they called me one day and asked if I would sub for them because they had a lady who was sick. Well, I had never worked with any of these people, any of these kids, anything. So I came in that day, and it was kind of the same situation where I was put in with like the 2 and 3 year olds, I want to say. And it was just weird. Like no one was really like welcoming. No one told me what to do. So like all the other workers they would like take their lunch and whatever, and no one would tell me anything. So I didn't get a break. No one told me when I could leave. So I was there like over 12 hours and never got a break because no one said anything to me. At one point after lunch, they were like, oh, the girl you're subbing for, it was her day to clean the kitchen. So that's your job. And I was like, I don't know where anything is. I'm literally subbing here. And they wanted me to sub for a whole week, and I couldn't because I was leaving town, and I never worked there again. And I remember just being like, wow, what the hell?
Yeah,
like,
wow.
I don't know any of these kids yet. I don't know.
I'm coming in on a limb essentially to save your ass, and you're going to treat me like this?
Yeah. And they'd be like, yeah, no, it's your turn. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know where anything is. It just like, it was that feeling of when you first start a job and you just feel so clueless. Like you want to do a good job, but you don't know what you're doing yet. And it was frustrating for me because that was like, honestly, probably one of my first experiences as like working at all.
In the workforce.
Yeah. I think I was
terrible.
Like 15 or 16.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So I feel ya, girl.
Damn.
Okay, this next one. Worked at a drugstore for several years. Worst part was when an elderly lady lost her keys. Then she couldn't get home to change her diaper in time. So she proceeds to empty her liquid shit-filled diaper all over the women's restroom with only 25% making it into the toilet. Talk about a shitty day.
That's tough because...
You like feel bad for her still?
I've been in a situation where I've had a family member not make it to the bathroom, and they were taking a while in the bathroom, and I was going to see what was going on, and obviously they were trying to clean it up. Well, they were elderly, so it was super hard for them to bend over. So I've been in that situation where I've told them, I've got this, let me clean it up. But that was also a family member.
Yeah.
It wasn't a random old lady.
Yeah, and I think it's hard too because in most situations, I would say the old person who's in that position, like they probably feel bad too because they don't want to be wearing a diaper. No. They don't want to be in that position.
It's just as embarrassing. It's 10 times more embarrassing for that person.
Okay, next one. My first job was at the Walmart McDonald's. The McDonald's managers were the meanest people. One of them would get so mad when I forgot to give customers ketchup packets and would make me stand on the other side of the counter to watch her give customers ketchup so that I would know how to do it.
That's humiliating.
That's such a like passive, God. You're an idiot. This is how you hand someone something.
Dude, that's one thing I can't stand for. Even teachers, I went to Jefferson Academy, even teachers would do this to students, but like
just make you feel stupid.
Make them feel stupid and belittle them. And it's like, what good does that do to your employee? If I'm trying to train an employee, me sitting here and belittling them every time they make a little mistake is not going to get me anywhere.
Oh my gosh, no. That's awful. And I've never worked I actually have never worked in the food industry at all. But specifically fast food. And I really give props to anyone who's done that. And probably that is something that everybody at one point in their life should work in like the food industry probably, because I bet you learn a lot about, whether you're a waitress or whatever. And I think if everyone did, they would maybe have more respect for people in those industries because I do not I mean, yeah, I can't imagine. I actually,
One of my best jobs was being a bartender at the Ale House.
yeah,
That was probably one of my best jobs ever.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out at Independent Ale House.
we still love it. We still
Oh,
go
yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I was going to say about fast food? I don't know if this is a hard job, okay? And I know people act like, oh, just like a burger flipper or whatever. But whenever I am in a drive-through, I feel so amazed by the person who's taking the order and then at the same time shuts the mic off, deals with the money with the next person in line, gives them the right stuff, turns it on while they're doing it. Like, what do you need? Like, I don't know how they multitask in their brain to do multiple things. I think that. And I'm like, I know people are like, oh, that's not a hard job. But I think that would be stressful. I really do.
Yeah, I would say that's a stressful part of that.
Yeah.
Or it's a stressful position.
Yeah.
I think after a time you would be able to do it just fine.
Yeah, I think it would become like once you figured it out, you would be like, yeah, you just do the same thing all day long, probably.
Like the same thing with photography. Like as you're taking pictures, you're already trying to think of like the next shot. You know what I mean? And like,
That's fair.
so you're multitasking without even knowing that you're multitasking.
I was just going to say, having to work like the drive-through, having to talk to people all day and like be on, that sounds like my worst nightmare.
Like just
Like taking orders, I think. Like I can, if I go have a photography session, I just have to interact with one person or a couple
it is
people,
exhausting.
right?
Like,
One-on-one. And I can like actually get to know them and we can like banter and whatever. But having to be like constantly like, what can I get you? And like keeping a good voice and a good attitude for like what, an 8-hour shift, that does not sound easy.
especially when you get assholes.
Yeah. But you know what I will say? And I'm sorry to whoever wrote this, but nothing irks me like asking for a specific sauce and not getting it. And I'm never going to get mad at people, and I don't care about ketchup, but I'm a ranch lover. And if I want ranch and they say, do you want a sauce? And I say, yeah, ranch. And they don't put it in there, I want to freak out because don't even try and tell me that Hidden Valley is the same as restaurant or fast food ranch, because it's not. And don't ask me if you're not going to give it to me. That is my 2 cents on that.
I feel like you're directing that towards me.
Because DJ knows that if he's going to get me food, I'm like, don't forget ranch. Don't forget ranch. And he'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. We've got ranch at home. I'm like, it's not the same. Okay. But anyways, that's beside the point. They should not treat you like that. That's awful. I honestly, if someone treated me like that, I'd be like, I'm out of here.
See ya.
Do not treat me like I'm stupid.
Yep.
I have been treated like I was stupid in jobs, and there's nothing that pissed me off more. Next one. Ooh, you're going to hate this one.
I am?
This is going to make your, well, it's short, but this just made me mad. This is actually our last listener one.
Okay.
Not that bad, but once I worked at a place that would promote people based on if they were Christian or not. Those people also got off every Sunday and holiday automatically.
What I want to know where this is, who this is.
I want to know where it is, who it is, and I want to never
support them again.
again.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I can't believe that.
I know we always say this, like, oh, what if roles were reversed? What if they were doing that for a different religion? Christians would lose their freaking mind. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, of course they would.
Like,
Even
no.
Even if it wasn't just religion, what if it was just race?
Yes.
What if it was an African American that just kept promoting just African Americans?
Any reason that you're supporting no, let's leave our religious beliefs out of the workplace, out of the school, out of all of that. I don't care what your religious beliefs are. Don't let it affect where you're working.
Unfortunately, it's going to end up ruining your business anyways, because there's going to be better qualified people that should be promoted, but you're just going off of religion. Oh, he's a good Christian, so he'll do good at this job, instead of actually giving the person who's qualified for that job.
Right. Or they might not even care if those people are good at their job. They're just like, oh, that's a Christian.
The business is just going to, it's just going to hurt itself.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely don't want you guys to think we're like anti anything. It's just, I just don't feel like decisions should be based on if you're religious or not, regardless of what that religion
It
is.
should be your work ethic and the person you actually are.
Yeah. So let's get into some Reddit stories. This one's a little bit longer. A couple of them are a little bit longer, but they're not too bad. I was a janitor at a college bar. Everyone's bodily wastes were in the wrong place all the time. Shit in the sink, vomit chunks in the urinals, used tampons were tied to the ceiling fan once. Had to mop the goddamn ceiling. But every night, without fail, every surface in the women's bathroom would be 100% urine soaked. It was just inexplicably everywhere. How? Why? These are the great unanswerable questions of our generation.
After the first pee incident all over the place, I worked at the Denny's bathroom, and I worked from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. Or no, Denny's restaurant, not Denny's bathroom. This Denny's was open 24 hours, so I would come in at 7 p.m. and I would work till 3 a.m. And so I always had the shit end of the stick because that's when all the drunkies would come in and destroy the bathrooms. But I want to say I never had to clean shit out of a sink. Like, that seems absurd.
It's so wild to me to, especially like the women's bathroom. Not saying that like women like should have to be cleaner, but like why would women's stuff be so much 100% urine? Are you joking me? How is that happening?
I will tell you right now that I didn't. There was a party at one of the houses, or one of my friend's houses. It was called The Trap, so those of you who know will know. But I remember going into the bathroom, and there was a girl in the sink, one in the bathroom, and one in the bathtub.
Just peeing?
Yes, 100%.
Guys, get a hold of, I mean, come on. But when I read this about like a college bar, it reminded me of like being in the college dorm and how gross that can be. And I remember my first year at college. I was only in the dorm my first year, and then I transferred colleges. But my first semester, I was in this dorm that was just gross. And, well, a couple things. I was on the 4th floor, and one half of the dorm was guys, the other half was girls. And you could, go back and forth throughout the day. But I think at like 10 o'clock at night, the doors would lock, so you couldn't get to the other side. But in the middle was like the staircase of going up. And then you needed a key to like get in each side or whatever. And I remember guys would be like hanging out in girls' dorms, but then they didn't have like a guy's bathroom on the girls' side. And like maybe they weren't from the guy's side. I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, they'd be on the girls' side and they couldn't get over to the guy's bathroom. So they would pee down the stairwell. Yeah. And then one time I remember coming up the stairs, and there was a pile of shit outside of my friend's dorm room. She was in a dorm room that was like, it used to be the like activity room on the floor. So it was
like
bigger.
It was like a community room with like tables and stuff.
So it was a bigger room. So there was 4 roommates in that one. I was the only one that had that many roommates. And they would always have like little parties in there because they had a much bigger room. And I don't know why. I don't know if someone was pissed at one of them or what, but someone literally took a shit right outside of their door and and then someone else put a paper towel over it that just said, "This is shit."
It sounds like some revenge or some anger.
Something.
That was an anger shit for sure.
And then the only other thing I was going to say, which like girls can't really help this, but having communal bathrooms, the amount of hairballs that were in the showers, they would look like rats. I mean, there was so much. I think everyone should live in a dorm at least once in their life because it's a really humbling experience.
I'm so glad I never did.
But yeah, I don't know.
I've stayed with friends in their dorm rooms, which was interesting a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad I never had to experience actually living in a dorm.
Yeah, but I think there's just nothing like college age kids that are drunk.
It's
disgusting. They're disgusting. They are disgusting. During the last summer, I worked in a pig slaughterhouse for 2 months. Every week, I had a different thing to do, but the worst I did was anus drilling. Basically, you have some sort of big drill, which you insert in the anus of the pig. You press the trigger, and it digs a big fucking hole in his ass while sucking what's inside his intestines. So the pig is dead at this point. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you could hit an abscess, which would explode all over you. Edit. Yes, the pigs were already dead, but since they're killed by electrocution, they sometimes have some nerves making them move. Sorry, I said that weird. They sometimes have some nerves making them move.
That's fucking brutal. I would never do that job.
How did you even get into a job like that? How much money are you making? Because there's nothing in the world that you could not pay me enough to anus drill.
I love bacon. I love pork chops. So for the people that do this job, I want to thank you personally because I love bacon.
Do you think if you did that job, you would be like, I'm never having pork again?
No, I've seen deer be gutted.
I don't know.
I don't know about drilling in assholes and stuff, but I don't know.
I love bacon. I love most meat, but I feel like if I had to see it happen, I could so easily be swayed to be a vegetarian.
Well, and it sounds like you were working for a very large commercial packing plant, possibly.
Yeah, like a big slaughterhouse.
I'm thinking more like butcher status, where they just kind of gut it and then let it hang and then lop it up.
This sounds like his job was like, they get electrocuted, boom, drill their anuses, whatever they have to do. I don't know how you even get into a job like that. That's
I'm sorry.
wild.
That's a terrible job, man. And like I said, thank you to whoever actually does it because I love bacon.
Okay. Next one. This one's super short. Cold calling people to sell them life insurance. It's soul destroying.
Yeah, I'd call you at 9:00 and try to get you to take a survey.
I feel, okay, on two sides. First off, if I'm the person being called and someone's cold calling me, I'm like, why the F are you calling me? I'm so annoyed. But I feel bad for the people who have to do it because all I can imagine is that they're on the phone and they're like, don't pick up, don't pick up, don't pick up. Like they're just doing their job. They have to. And maybe you have to hit a quota too. I can't imagine the bad shit that people say to them and how often they get hung up on. Like your ego has to just be like destroyed after a shift, I think. No,
it's
you just disconnect from it.
I've done this. I worked at Burnett's call center in Oregon. It was one of my other first jobs because it was a struggle to actually find a decent job. But Burnett's was a call center, and you made probably minimum wage. And then if you completed surveys, your hourly would get jumped up every survey that you would complete.
Oh, okay.
So it was there was a little bit of a pay scale there that you could earn if you could get people to pay.
Well, you have to have some incentive.
But some of these surveys were long. Like to get somebody to complete a survey, you're talking 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's if they don't talk. And you had to like, I don't know if you guys have watched TV before, but like, that was dumb.
I don't know if you've heard of a television, but let me break it down for you.
Oh gosh, no, but like having to follow. So if you guys have ever watched The Office, where Michael Scott has to pick up a second job because Jan is just a piece of shit. And so he's working at a call center and he keeps chatting with all the people on the call center. Like he's either selling them something. I think it was fat burning pills or something. And he would just have conversations with them. And it's exactly like that. Well, if you go off topic or off the survey, they will like put the call on hold and come talk to you and say, no, you need to be back on your keys because you have every word is already written in front of you that you have to say.
That it just has to be the definition of soul sucking.
I used a coloring book. And
I remember the last job I had, this was not nearly as bad as like cold calling. But actually, I had to do this for 2 jobs. But one of them, we just had to call the clients and we just had to like schedule stuff. And it wasn't a big deal, but the idea of having a list of like 20 people that you have to call and talk to. And like, they don't know who you are. So like, a lot of them are a little bit older. Some of them would be super nice. Some of them would be kind of rude. So like, I would literally have to hype myself up for every call because I hated that part of it so much. And I don't know if it's like the millennial in me not loving talking on the phone in general. Like with strangers, I don't know. I just don't love that.
But I'm the opposite. I prefer to talk on the phone.
I guess.
I'm terrible at texting. So people text me all the time and I'll read it while I'm doing something. And then I will remember randomly 4 days later that I forgot to text somebody back.
No, I don't hate talking on the phone to like family and friends. And I totally get there's a time where it's like, hey, I'm just going to call you. It's easier. I don't mind that at all. I don't like something as simple as like, hey, call this place in order for everybody. You know what I mean? I just don't like it. I cannot be the only one who feels that way.
I can't relate to that.
I know you can't. I think I get anxiety from really random things.
I know.
I was thinking we should do an episode on that because the things that used to give me anxiety, like I used to hate going through drive-thrus because I was so paranoid that I would like my mirror would hit something. Like in high school, I don't think I always parked and went into the place because I was so scared of going through a drive-thru. And this is embarrassing, but until 6 months ago, I didn't go through car washes.
No, I forced her.
I hated it because I'm like, what if I don't get on the tracks? What if I do something wrong? What if they yell at me? One time I went through a car wash and I hyped myself up. I was like, I can do this. I'm pretty sure. I go in here and I put it in neutral. And I did that. And I swear my foot was not on the brake. It was in neutral. The guy was yelling at me.
Because your foot was on the brake.
Get your foot off the brake. And I said, it's not on the brake. And I was so freaked out. I wanted to back up and get out of there and I couldn't. And I think that traumatized me because it was like a few years later that I finally went through a car wash. My dad would do that all the time because he hated my car being dirty. So a lot of times he would wash it for me. But sometimes he would say, okay, this is such a good dad. Be like, let's go put gas in your car. And then you're going to drive. I'm going to be right next to you and we're going to go through the car wash. And I'm not joking, guys. This was last year. Stupid, irrational fears.
Baby steps.
I'm over it now. I'm a mom. I've learned how to whatever.
I'm a mom.
I also hated getting my blood drawn. And I had to get over that, Okay. I was 17 when I got my first job. My mom knew this guy who owned a small grocery store and mentioned that he needed help in the store. My mom said that I would probably be interested. So I was a senior in high school, but only went to school for half a day since I already had enough credits to graduate. So I got off at noon. My mom would use her lunch break to bring me to work before 1, and I was scheduled to work until 9 p.m. I get to work, and the weather is already horrible. January, cold, slight rain. I meet the owner, and he says, I'm going to have you cutting bait. At the time, I lived in Louisiana, and crawfish is huge here. And he sold crawfish but needed someone to cut the bait and someone to run the traps to catch them. So here I am outside under a small overhang in 28-degree weather cutting fish. The guy who used to cut fish and is now running traps was showing me how to cut fish. He said he can cut 12 buckets in an 8-hour shift and expected me to cut at least half of that. After 7 hours of cutting fish, no breaks, I only had 3 buckets done. The light above me fell and broke. At 9 p.m., the owner came outside, told me to clean up and come inside. I go inside, wash up, and the owner gives me $4. The original agreement was that he paid me $25 a day. This was mid-90s, but he said that he needed to replace the light I broke, and I didn't do enough buckets, and to come back tomorrow and work harder. But before I left, I needed to bring in the buckets that I finished. I walked outside, kicked over all 3 buckets, and never went back. Fuck that guy.
I mean, I can understand having
Oh my God, I would not last one shift doing this. The light breaks, so you're working in the cold, and then on top of that, the light breaks, so you don't have light. He's like, oh, that's coming out of your paycheck. No, buddy, that's the cost of owning something. You got to pay to replace stuff. You still have to pay your employees.
Correct. Like if I wreck a piece of machinery, depending on what happened, it's not coming out of my pocket. It's coming out of the company's pocket.
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, if it was... there are cases where it would need to come out of your pocket.
Yeah, depending on the situation.
Yeah, but also to expect you to do like a certain amount, it's like it's your very first day. There's going to be a learning curve.
Yeah, what happens if you've never done something like that?
Yeah, besides, I'm thinking your hands have to be like freezing.
Oh, yeah.
So that has to be slowing you down a little bit too. Poor guy. That sounds rough.
It does sound rough.
Okay, we only have 2 more. This one, sales associate at Bath & Body Works. As a shopper, I have never been inside a Bath & Body Works where the employees gave customers hand massages with the lotion. But I swear to God, we had to at the one I worked at. We would have a sales goal for the day, pick our favorite lotion, and force it upon people as they walked in. Then, while rubbing their hands, we would exclaim all about the wonderful properties of said lotion and why on earth you should pay $18 for it, while your manager is asking you how many you've sold through your earpiece. Not only did it make me feel creepy, it attracted creepy old men who felt obliged to tell me exactly what they would like me to do with the body butter. The smell of all the products made me want to throw up after a couple of weeks, and there was a nice old woman who had been working there for years, and her hands were cracked and bleeding from handling all that crappy lotion every day. I had to quit after 6 weeks. Listen, I love Bath & Body candles, but I walk by there, and I sometimes immediately get a headache. And there's some candles I light at home that I light them and I get a headache. I know they're not good for you. There's some smells that I love and I still love it. My mom has like an entire closet of Bath and Body Works because she just has her lotions that she loves. But yeah, I don't think they're actually good for your skin at all. They're just filled with chemicals and fragrance. And also to rub it on someone else's hand. But if I was walking into a store, someone was like, here, try this lotion, try to rub my hand, I would not be about that.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
I wonder if there was something weird about your specific Bath and Body Works.
Yeah, whoever was managing that place probably had a hand fetish or something.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's
Old
strange.
guys coming in. That's awful.
I'm telling you what they want you to do with the lotion.
Yeah, I would be like, no.
Weird.
Yeah. Very last one. This isn't even a story. This was just like crazy to me because there's not a lot of context. I don't know when this was. It just says tree planter, 7 cents a tree. 7 cents.
Well, it could be baby trees.
I don't care. I don't care. Will you make $1 a day? Are you joking me?
Babe.
How long does it take to plant a tree?
Not long. Have you seen? So there's the guys that will literally walk through the forest with like a bag of saplings, and they literally like throw this shovel thing in the ground and then lift it up and throw the sapling down, and that's one. Throw the shovel down, two. Throw the shovel down, two.
Let's do some
It's
mental
7 cents if you did
math here. How many trees do you think they're doing in an hour?
You could probably do 500 or 600 in an hour.
No way.
Wouldn't you think? If you could literally, like, I literally just saw a video on Instagram of a guy doing this, and he was moving fucking quick. He was in a forest that had probably been burned, and then they basically rehabbed the area, and then guys will come through and they'll throw saplings everywhere.
I guess.
I bet guys, probably they could get close to probably, I don't know, like 2,000 or 3,000, 2,500 in a day.
Okay, so do some math.
Okay.
How much is that a day?
$175.
I don't trust that mental math.
I just did it on a calculator.
I don't trust that phone math. Okay, whatever. Maybe you have a point. But first reading that, I was like,
Hold
you're
on.
never going to make anything.
Let's look.
Make sure you did 7 cents and
I
not
did.
like 70 cents or $7.
Oh my gosh. You know I'm better than you at math.
No, absolutely not. You're better than me at mental math. Throw an equation at me. Do it. I'll solve for X right now.
Are we
Okay?
talking about algebra?
Yeah, or whatever. Mental math is not my strong suit, but you give me a piece of paper, I can do it.
Average daily totals of 2,500 are common, with experienced planters planting upwards of 5,000 trees a day. Numbers as high as 7,500 a day have been recorded.
Okay.
So,
So 7,500 times 7 cents.
That's a good day.
That's
$525.
okay. Maybe this guy was making a decent amount of money. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're just...
So are you the one keeping track of how many? If you're doing that many, are you counting to 7,500?
You got to think. So if I have a big old pouch of saplings,
they see how much is left over.
When I refill, I do 50 at a time, or I do 100 at a time. So then I know that they got to come in bundles of like, you know what I mean? So it becomes easier to count.
I guess when I was thinking about this, I was thinking of like a legit tree.
Like a 15-year-old tree that has a big old root ball.
I wasn't even thinking that big. I was thinking like one of those.
Oh, like a hardwood tree you'd buy from like the.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe you do 20 a day. Like I didn't know.
We did.
Even if you did like 100.
I was gonna say you could do over about 100. We did.
But 7 cents a tree.
No, those are expensive as fuck. Oh no, I'm stating like the trees that you're talking about
yeah.
to plant. Like if I wanted like a pine tree that was like a teenage pine tree, say it was probably 10 years old, and it was a spruce, we're talking thousands of dollars for me to bring that, transplant it. Cause I mean, you got to dig the big ass hole for it to go in. You have to make sure the soil is correct, so on and so forth. That's no easy task.
No. So that's all of them. We're at 52 minutes.
Wow.
Definitely gonna have to cut a couple things out. But I was just thinking, just to kind of like wrap it up, do you want to say what your best job was? Aside from the one you're doing now, what was like your favorite job and why? And not all parts of it have to be like super glamorous, but just the best of what you had.
I really liked, I liked working at Lids in the mall.
Oh yeah. You did that in college?
No,
Or,
it was,
outside of
it
high
was
school?
during high school and freshly out of high school before I moved to Oregon. I liked lids probably the most. The job itself got very boring at times, but I loved it because I had friends that worked at Zoomies. I had friends everywhere. So every single day that I worked, I saw my best friends.
Yeah.
So
that's
it just made it a lot easier. Other than that, I mean, kind of going back to the firefighting too.
Yeah.
Like it was
Or parts of that were
best
really
and
good.
worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like firefighting was really, really good for me just as a person in general.
Yeah. I was going to say like the day camp just in terms of working with friends because you just like become best friends with all the camp counselors and we'd like hang out on Friday nights and Saturday we all go to the lake or whatever. So I really liked that part of it. Obviously probably my favorite job other than what I'm doing now was a clothing store because it was my own. I loved that. But as far as working for someone else, I would say it was probably doing social media for Riddles because I really liked who I worked with and it was kind of there was more to it obviously, but it was my job to put like the photo shoots together and pick
Like
out the
styled
jewelry
shoots
for
and
it.
stuff.
Yeah, and I just really loved that. Like just being able to be creative and go pick out the jewelry and set up I would get to like go to Hobby Lobby and like pick out the props for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just liked that. I liked being able to do that. I at the same time was doing my store. So then I eventually quit there and opened my store full time. And I don't think it was a job where I like necessarily could have worked my way up very far. So it didn't really feel like a super long-term kind of job, but I did really like it. And I loved the people that I worked with. But you know what I was thinking too is like a lot of jobs, I think any job you're going to have times where you're like, oh, I hate this. I can't wait to like move on to the next thing. And then you're going to have really good parts. But a lot of times looking back on the jobs, I think sometimes you think they were better than they were in some sense where you're like, oh, that was kind of nostalgic or I don't know. Like parts of that I really loved.
They were better than you thought they were at the time.
Yeah. When you're in it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because there's parts, obviously, of bartending I didn't like, late nights, weekends, stuff like that. But once again, it goes back to who you're working with and who the leader of the ship is. And if you have
huge.
If you have a good captain or a good leader, that it makes the job that much easier because you want to work for them.
Absolutely. I think the people you're working for and the people you're working with, that can make or break a job.
Yeah.
100%. And it has for me before. That's it for today's episode. We're actually probably going to record another episode this week. I don't know what day yet.
Yep.
Just to make sure we stay on track. But
no, Sam's going on vacay.
I am. I'm going to Austin, Texas with a few friends. And it's just going to be a long weekend with some girls. And I'm so excited. And I won't have a baby with me, which makes me kind of sad. I think it's going to be a little hard. But I am so excited to... couple things. First off, be able to sleep and actually get into a deep sleep without like worrying about a baby crying or having to wake up multiple times.
You think you're actually going to be able to sleep?
I don't know, but I'm curious to see how you do.
What do you mean?
Because you're used to just sleeping through the cries. But here's what I will say. He actually has been sleeping pretty good. I don't want to jinx it. But the last couple nights, he hasn't slept terrible. Anyways, I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to just not have like a set plan. We're just kind of going and hanging out and shopping and having good food and drinks. And I'm just really excited for it.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, it'll be good.
You deserve it, baby.
Thank you. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to go write a review. And
like, follow, and subscribe.
Is that the same for podcasts?
All of them. I'm just
I don't
saying.
know. Okay.
You can like it. You can follow it. You can subscribe to it.
I don't know how it's so different for every like social media.
Yeah.
And go follow us on Instagram at Are You High Right Now Podcast. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks.